It's finally here! Do you guys know how long I've been waiting for this? That's right, the Knuckles series just dropped, and as promised, I'm going to review each episode one at a time. I've managed to force myself not to watch any other reviews of the show before I make my own. That way, my views are purely based on what I get out of the show and not what I heard about it. With that said, there will definitely be some spoilers. I want to at least roughly analyze each episode. So Knuckles is living in Green Hills with Maddie, Sonic, and Tails, and Tom, except Tom is just kind of gone somewhere. Oh, and Ozzy, let's not forget Ozzy. The show doesn't waste any time at all showing us that Knuckles is a downright menace. He absolutely terrorizes the home renovators. Apparently he thinks they're attacking his home because of the heavy-duty tools they're using, but it's excessive to say the least. I guess this is still in character though for a few reasons. It might be that Knuckles normally isn't this bad, but he's gotten really antsy. He's a trained warrior, but now that his mission from the second movie has ended, what does a warrior do next, especially when his people are no longer here? Sonic and Tails seem to be adjusting well, partially because Sonic already admired humans and is very good at adapting, and of course Tails is really mild-mannered and intelligent. Knuckles, on the other hand, all of his skills are best suited for battle and he has no one to battle. He is deliberately looking for any excuse to fight, which actually makes him come off as a little bit nasty. Even the concept of a home is a bit suffocating for him, because he said that the Echidna warriors had no home, and I think that means that they were nomadic. So out of the three of them, it does make sense that Knuckles is the one who fits in the least. One random detail I really liked is that Knuckles built an iron throne for himself at the table, and when the others are like, what the heck, Knuckles says that it is the throne for the family champion, and if anyone else wants to sit there, they simply have to defeat him in combat. This actually sounds like a really fun game to play with my brothers. But anyways, Maddie has understandably had it up to here with Knuckles' shenanigans and grounds him. Knuckles reluctantly accepts this punishment with honor, and Sonic has a couple heart-to-heart talks with him as instructed by Maddie, because I think she's so upset and busy that she doesn't even know how to talk to him right now. Part of it might be for runtime reasons, and part of it might also be that Sonic is a little bit distracted and Maddie is really stressed out, but it does seem like these characters aren't really giving Knuckles the attention he needs. They aren't communicating with him as well as they should. They're kind of avoiding conflict a little bit. Now that's not necessarily bad or anything, it's just something I noticed. Thankfully Sonic at least makes a little bit of an effort, and he's the one who does seem to understand Knuckles the most. But it's no wonder that Knuckles sort of has to resort to questioning himself. He does this in the form of asking his ancestors for guidance, and he sees a ghost of Chief Pachacamac in his mind, at least I think it's in his mind. But the directions that Chief Pachacamac gives him are so specific to what's happening right now and stuff that he shouldn't really know, that it makes me wonder if it is more than just Knuckles' imagination, or if it's just supposed to be funny. But anyways, the chief tells Knuckles that he needs to pass down the ways of the Echidna since none of them are left. That's his next mission, and he actually instructs him to make Wade his new apprentice. Wade is of course Tom's deputy from the movies, and of course Tom didn't take him very seriously, but it's not just Tom, we find out in the show. We see that Wade is on a bowling team, but when the chips are down and he's playing against an 8-year-old girl, by the way, he loses by 1 pin. He didn't get the full strike, and that's apparently so bad that he just gets kicked off the team. Needless to say, Wade's confidence is shattered and he's abandoned by his friends, so he just feels pretty stupid. He tries to make up for his apparent weakness by working out, but he almost kills himself with the bench press. This is where Knuckles finds him, and this is a part I really like with Knuckles. Up until this point, I've actually been a little bit surprised at how brutal and ruthless and even kinda mean Knuckles is. And yes, he still has moments like that, but on this scene, Knuckles asks Wade about the bowling championship because he heard about it from Pachacamac. Again, I'm not quite sure why Pachacamac inside Knuckles' imagination would have known that. But Wade sadly explains to him that he's not going to the tournament because he just got kicked off the team, and admits that the one who beat him was actually an 8-year-old child. Knuckles does seem surprised, but instead of mocking him or being hard on him like the others, he simply asks him, "Would you like to reclaim your honor?" And he's like, "Of course, I want to, but I can't. I'm not strong. I'm a joke." And Knuckles is like, "But I am strong, and I can teach you, and I don't make jokes." So, even though he's grounded, Knuckles goes with Wade to Reno, Nevada in order to get a scope of how he needs to train Wade. I think it's right around here where we see the villains for the first time, and I was actually surprised. I didn't know they were going to be in the first episode, but for some reason, they were spying on Sonic's house, like Sonic, Maddie, Tails, and Knuckles. They knew that all of them were there, and the moment Knuckles leaves, they're like, he's vulnerable, now we're gonna get him. I still don't really know who they are, but apparently these two agents in particular are working for someone they call the buyer to bring him Knuckles so he can use Knuckles' quills for his machines, but the two agents are only interested in getting paid. I actually forget their names, but there's like a really serious British lady with a chip on her shoulder and this American guy who is played by Kid Cudi, and he is kind of cringe, and not just to the audience but like to the people he works with. Like, he enjoys everything he's doing a bit too much like a kid, and so they're like eye rolling at everything he does. Somehow, and I hope this gets explained, but they have access to those portal rings that Sonic has, as well as other technology, including stuff with Knuckles' quills in it. Well, actually, they get that from the buyer later, so never mind. But they do seem to be independent agents, but it is implied that the woman used to work for somebody else. To wrap up this episode, we have a really nice character moment where Wade is showing Knuckles how bowling works. Knuckles at first kind of thinks it's dumb, but then he starts to understand, especially when Wade explains to him why bowling is so important to him, because it's something that he used to do to connect with his father. From the sad way Wade's talking about him, Knuckles kind of assumes that he's dead and asks carefully like what happened, like did he get slain, you know? I love this interaction because while Knuckles is generally very abrasive and harsh, on this scene we visibly see him soften because we know that Knuckles also lost his father. But surprisingly, Wade's father didn't die, he actually just abandoned his family. Knuckles acknowledges this but doesn't say any word of judgment or anything, he just quietly accepts. He's just listening really well and then asks him if bowling makes him feel at home. Sonic had been telling him about home and what that means earlier, and of course Knuckles struggled with it because his people didn't have a home, but slowly we see him start to understand that a home is more than just a place. But now they're a lot more on the same page, and Knuckles has accepted bowling and is going to help Wade overcome his difficulties with it. They barely get started though because those two agents I mentioned showed up and start beating the crap out of Knuckles. If I have one kind of complaint about this episode, other than me being a little unsure about the characterization of Knuckles, it's the fact that it moves a little too quickly for my liking. I wouldn't have minded if they saved the confrontation with these two for the next episode instead of putting it right at the end of this one. But at the same time, I also see why they're doing this because of there only being 6 episodes. And they at least made room for some really important scenes, so I'm glad it doesn't feel too bad. But anyways, in this scene, I was a bit afraid that these two randos would just end up being super strong and mop the floor with Knuckles for no reason. And I didn't like that idea, but thankfully that's not what happens. They put up an okay fight, but Knuckles definitely mops the floor with them in the end, and the only reason they're able to capture him is because of a dirty trick. So yeah, that was episode 1. I'm really happy to finally be watching this. It's super exciting, and I did think the episode was really funny. The pacing was pretty good. The villains are, they're okay. It's hard to tell so far. Knuckles is pretty harsh, but still has some really great moments, so I'm excited to see where this goes for sure.